on this mic. Hi, Mom. Oh, hold on. Don't try to. Hold on. Come on, it's Monday, y'all. It's Monday. Yes. It is Monday. Welcome to Make It Happen Mondays, where we take a little bit of time out of our busy lives so we can be informed, inspired, and make it happen for the rest of the week. Thank you for taking your time out to join me. I am your host, Monique. I am the curator of Make It Happen Monday, and I'm also the founder of She's Rising, where I get to magnify the magic in the life of Black women leaders. And so Black women leaders who work with me, they feel burned out, they're unclear about their calling, they're struggling, just believing that they're enough, and I help them own their power so they can feel confident, trust their decisions, and create a fulfilling life in work, love, and play. Yes, we can have it all. So as y'all come in, please say hello to me so I can say hello back. I want to make sure that I can see all of the things. We're streaming live on both YouTube and Instagram. So I'll be looking back and forth to make sure that I'm able to catch your comments. I am a little emotional today, which seems to be the theme of my life. So if you missed it, I am officially 43 years old, Leos, yes, Leo Nation. I spent last week in Jamaica, Montego Bay, first time in Montego Bay, Jamaica, and it was a wonderful experience. And I have been getting so many questions about this solo traveling that I've been doing. And I've been getting some side-eye too, like, what is that? Like, what's that? Thank you, Jessica. Thank you. So I decided to go ahead and do a live about this topic. One, is becoming more popular. And two, I'm going to tell you my story if you don't know what I've been doing for the past 2.5 years. So I figured it was fitting to do so. Side note, sidebar. This came up here too. I just got done emceeing a dynamic conference, Women Creating Wealth and Impact. If you guys do not know Meltrice, if you're not a part of Women Creating Wealth and Impact, I encourage you to go to their Instagram page, WCWI_community. You're going to see highlights and different posts of this weekend. Though women in that room did not leave the same. The energy was high. Speakers were great. Facilitators broke down information. And it was just an incredible privilege for me to host it. But this topic about solo traveling and what I've been doing in my life came up there too, where the women asked the question like, so tell me more. So that's what I'm here to do today. I'm going to share more about solo travel. I'm going to talk about the concerns and why we don't do it. But most importantly, I'm going to talk about the benefits and why I feel like every Black woman should do a solo trip. And what I'm going to start with is this. Right now in my life, I can say that I am so in love with myself. And it's not in a vain way. It's in a way that and this is what got me emotional and just thinking about preparing what I wanted to say to you all today. Like, solo travel has awakened parts of me that were dormant. And quite frankly, I thought were dead and I didn't even know existed, right? And so I think of solo travel as this treasure hunt, like going on this treasure hunt. But I am the treasure. And so are you. So when you go, you know there's some good things that are there, but you just got to go find them. And solo travel is the space in which that happens. So I can't wait to talk to you all about it just because how beneficial it's been in my life. So good morning. Happy Monday to everybody. Charnice, Wanda loves travel. Yes, I heard about you. Thank you for joining and welcome to Make It Happen Mondays. So let's dive right in, right? And if you guys have questions about what I'm talking about, or if you've thought about doing solo travel and you have certain issues or concerns that you have in doing it, just let me know. Like put a comment in and we'll talk about it. So For 2.5 years, lived between Cleveland, Ohio, and St. Martin in the West Indies in the Caribbean. And if you had asked me if I would have done that, I would have never thought that I would. One, because I'm a mother of three sons. Two, because of finances, right? Like probably didn't think that that was something feasible for me. And three, I had never planned on traveling alone. That wasn't like a goal to travel alone. But in 2021, I decided to take 6 weeks off of work. I had started my business in 2020. It took off. We also was through the pandemic, so you're dealing with, you have COVID and you work, your kids have COVID and you're trying to work through it. You know, all the things that we dealt with during the pandemic while working from home and launching a business. So in 2021, I decided I was going to take a sabbatical. So I took 6 weeks off. And you know, if you're a mom like I am, you know that your time that you choose for yourself end up being somebody else's, your kids. And that's what happened. My son played football. I ended up spending so much of my sabbatical traveling with him for football season. But I said, hey, I'm going to take at least 5 days, and I'm going to a beach, open water, always loved open bodies of water and beach. I said, I'm going. So I reached out. I had connected with a travel agent. I said, hey, I want to go on a trip, but I was also recently separated. So this would be my first trip that I ever went by myself for years, and then internationally, had never traveled alone internationally. But I wanted to get away. I wanted to take a moment to myself, and I wanted it to be in a beautiful environment that I love. And so she recommended two places. Well, she recommended several places, but I was looking at how hotel rooms look. So it ended up going down to St. Martin and Aruba. Welcome to Make It Happen Monday, St. Martin and Aruba. And so I had never heard of St. Martin in my life. But what she told me is that if I'm traveling by myself for the first time, I might want to try St. Martin because they call it the friendly island. Everybody who she sent there by themselves, they loved and they enjoyed. And so I said, okay, sign me up. And that's what I did. I went down to St. Martin, just spent 5 days there, all inclusive resort, right? And something in that moment came alive. When I went to Grand Cas and I put my feet in it, it was, ooh, on the sand, in the water. It was like an ancestral moment, y'all. Like, I don't even have words to describe what I felt in that water with that sun and that blue, that beach. It was just like, ah. So when it's time to come home, you know, your girl shed a couple tears, but I came on back home. But I, at that point, had awakened something in me that just would not go to sleep. So I ended up booking another trip. Oh, actually, I said, I feel like I'm an island girl at heart and I want to stay there for a month. And so I ended up staying on the island for a month. And that's when I fell in love even more and continued to book trips there until in November, I decided I was going to move there in January. Now, from a practical standpoint, I mean, logistically, because this is what people want to understand. In my business, I knew when I started my business that I wanted a business that I could work from anywhere. I knew that I did not want to be confined to location. So I set my business up, but it was the prime time because of the pandemic. Everybody else in the world got a hold of that as well. And so what that meant is I could take my clients and I could do my work while I was there. And I could plan whatever I needed to in person. I could plan for the times I was at home. Now, because I own a business, because I was doing business things, looking at properties and all of that, I was also able to have it as a write-off for my business, right? And so in my trips, I made sure that I incorporated business activities, created content, you know, teach women like I'm doing now how to be able to do this and live this life if you so desire. And so for me, it became a business write-off. My apartment was in my business name, and all of those things. So I didn't take it out of my W-2, out of my check. So I do want to name that, right? Like, this is how I was able to do it. But when I moved to the island, because I have children, I also decided that, I didn't want to be away from them for more than 2.5, 3 weeks at a time. And so that meant that I traveled back and forth every month. And so there's always a give and take. that is taxing, right? Financially, and it physically can be, but you can set your life up in a way where you can make it happen. And my children are a little older now, so I was able to navigate. If they were younger, y'all, they would have been on that plane with me. There wouldn't have been no questions. They wouldn't have had no choice. They would have had to come with me, right? But they're older, and I respected the fact that they wanted to be here, so that's what I did. My solo travel started then, but then I started taking mini sabbaticals to Houston, just different places, not always the island, but different places because of what I discovered when you travel alone. And what you discover when you travel alone is you discover yourself. You discover yourself in ways that the little moments that you're trying to steal, too focused on yourself, and you really can't do it. You can do this in a way that you really can break free from the demands of your life. And that is the benefit that I found in solo travel. So I continue to do it. So I wanted to talk today about, because I hear a lot of women saying, I would love to do that, but they're concerns. And so I wanted to talk through some of the concerns. So one of the biggest concerns is fear. Fear. We are afraid to travel by ourselves. One, safety concerns, and we have every right to be concerned about safety. You know, human trafficking is real. You are going to a different place. A lot of times we do want to go out of the country. You don't have to, though, but there is fear, right? And there's unsafe situations and unfamiliar environments. So it's fear. And also the unknown. A lot of us like control. We like to know what we know, go to what we know, like to control the situation. We don't want anything foreign coming to us. And so we have an anxiety about the unknown and to navigate places that we are not familiar to us, especially if there's different languages. The good news is a lot of people speak English, and there's a way, you know, a lot of people do speak English. So that's super helpful. But it's that fear, and that fear is real, and that fear is valid. I also had those fears, right? The other concern is responsibilities. How many, like, you would go, but you feel like you don't have the time. You don't have the time. And the other thing is you have a husband or a partner that they just won't let you, right? Now, they might also be afraid, and they also might feel like, why do you want to go somewhere by yourself when you can go with me? Right? So those responsibilities and those other people in our lives or don't have time, that also stops us from solo travel. This one is a big one though. It is the perceived loneliness. The perceived loneliness. So a lot of people feel like they're going to be isolated, that they're not going to enjoy the experience because they don't have any company. All of that is valid, but I want to challenge it, right? And so we have fear, we have responsibilities and not having time, we have perceived loneliness. But there are solutions to all of these things, and that's what I really want to focus on today. So when we talk about fear, first, you know, I got to hit it from the Bible. God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of love and a sound mind. So much of what we fear is going to happen is false expectations appear real. We already know that. What I also know is that when you are covered, God has a way of like ordering your steps and working things out along the way. But beyond the like faith piece of it, there really are some practical things that you can do to address the fear. So the one, like I told you, my travel agent said St. Martin, it was a safe place. She could give me recommendations of where to stay. Sometimes people even have context. So one thing is about researching and understanding the destination that you're going to, and not just by Google, but there's also ways to talk to other people that have been there that can help you navigate it and feel a little more safe about where you're going and have a little more information. Another thing is to make a friend. So like going to a resort or staying at a resort the first time is always good because they're there to help you navigate. I wouldn't go out of the country and the first place I stay is an Airbnb. Like, no, I don't know the people. I don't know the locations. I don't know enough about that place to be able to go to the Airbnb. But if I go to a resort that's frequented, that has good ratings, who their job is to connect you to places and help you navigate it, I always find a friend. I was just in Jamaica last week for my birthday, and I connected with so many of the staff members who gave me the scoop on the situation. So I got to eat a dinner on the beach. I didn't pay the hotel price. I paid the under the table price. I got connected to a driver that gave me a better rate, that then was safe and could tell me how to navigate the other things. Someone else who took me around so I could see the different parts of Montego Bay. And so I have friends, I make friends or acquaintances, or I acquaint myself with the people, the locals that are there. And that is always super helpful in navigating the place that I'm in or the place that I'm going to. So you can do that. The other thing is, I promise you, I think most of us got ghetto survival techniques and we understand how to be smart. Trust your gut. When your gut say, this not the right place, and that person looks suspect, or I'm going to stay close to a group when I'm going this way, I promise you, you know how to navigate the situation. And what I learned is the things that I feared and it didn't go the way I expected or the way that I planned. I always said the island gave me exactly what I needed, even if I didn't know that I needed it, right? So that is some way that you can address the fear of doing it. In terms of the responsibilities, this is where I want to go with you guys. And because it doesn't have to be out of the country. We all have them. But what is more important than you? If you are burned out, if you are overwhelmed, if you cannot show up in your day-to-day life, but you're saying that you don't have time to take for yourself, that really will have me say, well, let's seriously reevaluate life for you, right? Because at the very least, you could drive 45 minutes to an hour away from your home. And I do recommend that you go away from the home that you live. There are those staycations where you could just go to your hotel in your city. But you still kind of feel like you're responsible, or if you're in arm's length and people can reach you and all of those things. So I would recommend 45 minutes to an hour away, even if it's just one night. 2 days, one night. Make it a priority to spend time with yourself, to break away from the influences and the responsibility and all the things that make you have to show up in a certain type of way instead of just being. That's what solo travel does. It allows you to just be in whatever state you're in. There's pajamas all day, then that's what you're gonna do. If it's lounging, watching a book. I remember when I went to Houston by myself, I felt like, oh, I should be exploring the city and all this stuff. But I was really into that book I was reading. So I stayed in my room and I read that book. And when I was ready to go outside, I went outside. But I had to remind myself that you're not beholden to anything or anyone but yourself. Who said you're supposed to be outside just because you out of the state? No, you do what you feel like doing in the moment. And so you taking the time to do that allows you to come back a whole better version of yourself. So that's what I would say to the spouses. You got to tell your spouse, and your spouse ain't down for it. Listen, y'all set up a safety plan where you gonna go. He got your location, he got your room, et cetera, and say, babe, when I get back, I'm going to be better for you by just taking this time, right? So you communicate, you create that plan, you delegate the responsibilities. Sometimes we feel like if I'm not doing it, it won't be done. And it's not true. It might not be done the way that you want it to be done, but everybody will survive. Everybody will be okay for you to break away for just a little bit. But you got to set them boundaries. Like my son called me so many times when I was on my trip last week talking about school and his clothes and this and that. And I made sure that we ordered his clothes before he left. But when he was calling, I said, hey, guess what I'm not doing today? I'm not talking about that. I'll deal with that when I get home. I had to keep reminding him, but I didn't let him break the boundary. And that's what we have to do with the solo travel. So I want to go to the third one, perceived loneliness and why you're not going. I literally had a guy, hi, Helena. I literally, when I was in Jamaica, had a guy say, you here by yourself? First of all, I got that so much. You by yourself? You by yourself? Dinner on the beach for what? I don't think they do that. I said, we're going to do it today because I'm by myself. I intentionally wanted to bring in my birthday by myself in a state of reflection in Montego Bay, do a mud bath, ride the raft in the river, and I did exactly what I went there to do. And when it was quiet, when I wanted it quiet, it was quiet. When I wanted some music, I got some music. When I wanted this music versus that music, I got that. When I wanted to sit inside and order breakfast in my room, that's what I did. I moved how I wanted to move. I did what I wanted to do. I didn't hold anything. But he was so shocked to say, he was like, I couldn't do it. You here by yourself? I applaud you. I couldn't do it. And to him, I said, that's something to really investigate. Why are you afraid to be alone? And it's the question that I ask anyone who does not want to travel by themselves because they do not want to be alone. Why are you afraid to be alone? So many of us spend so much time ripping and running and going. And what we do not realize is we're really trying to escape ourselves. We stay busy because being still is a scary place to be. What is going to come up? And what are you going to do when it does? When I moved to the island, I was the first time by myself. As a mother at the age of 21, college student, I had not been in a place where I had been by my adult self. And things came up. And those things didn't always feel good, but they were necessary for a breakthrough, which is why I started off saying I am so in love with myself because I was able to face those things, because the solo travel gave me the space to be able to learn myself in a way that I had not had the opportunity before. And we can create that by having those moments and creating those moments where you don't have to be someone's mom. You don't have to be someone's employee. Nobody's consultant. Nobody's usher board or whatever role you play, right? You don't have to be that in those moments. I'm checking in to see. I learned so much about myself when I traveled alone, and we do. And I learned that when we're traveling, we're really not experiencing the places that we're going to because we're confined to the resorts and then the places that they have us go. And so even when we think that we're going out here, learning about ourselves, going to new places, we're still restricted. And we're not fully experiencing all that we can within ourselves and within the places and spaces that we're going. And so when it comes to the perceived loneliness, one is the perception, because you are never alone. There are people all over this world. And I know that introverts are like, I'm not walking up to people, but what I know is that introverts have a good time. They laugh, they connect with people. They just observe first. And you can still do that. You can go to these places, you can observe. Like I said, the hotel people, they're always a good, friendly, safe place to start. And you don't have to be alone. People are like, hey, let's go to dinner tonight, or all of those things. It's just the world, like it's the Pandora's box. Things just open up when you take the step forward and decide to be curious instead of fearful, right? And so this perceived loneliness is just that. And it really begs the question, why are you afraid to be alone? So when I think about the benefits and what I have gotten from traveling alone, I said earlier, I've fallen in love with myself. And I don't say that lightly because I did not always love myself. I functioned, I operated, I showed up in my skill set, I showed up in my natural gifts. But stopping to see me, the good, bad, ugly, and indifferent, and not judge any part of it, but just look at it like outer body, like, okay. Or to understand who I am outside of what I became because of my environment and circumstance. And when I say that, I say I've always been adventurous. I've always wanted to live in different places in the world. But I became a soccer mom. My kids didn't play soccer, but I moved to the suburb and I raised my children. And so there's parts of myself that I shrank, I minimized, I buried Because one, I didn't think that I could be her anymore. I didn't feel like it was fitting why somebody said that was the case. That's not true. But I became something. Even let's go into the when we all spicy and angry and bitter. I've learned that I'm really not like I'm always a little feisty, but I really carry more joy and excitement than anger and bitterness and frustration. But when I'm in an environment that constantly is bringing that out, that's what I came to know. What do we always say? That's just who I am, but it's not. And how do you know until you take a moment away from the environments that are creating you and America? I'll add that the cultural aspect of it. How do you know who you really are when all you have been is in the environment that has shaped you? And if you don't take the time to find out. So I fell in love with myself, whether I'm on point. You see what I did today? I didn't even barely do my hair, and that's okay. I still love me. I still love me. I couldn't have said that. I fell in love with my chocolate skin. I didn't feel like that as a dark skinned girl growing up, being called tar baby, grandma who was very light, criticizing my skin color, all the kids on the playground with their jokes. I didn't want to go outside because I didn't want to get darker. And now I run to the sun. I said, come on. What you got for me? Come on. I love to be bronzed and more chocolatey. Okay. But I did that by learning myself. I fell in love with myself by understanding what had made me who I was. So I no longer had to carry the guilt and shame of that. I could separate myself from my behaviors or my actions because I spent time to understand who I really am. In addition to the difference between self-love and self-worth, which is a whole nother topic, right? So no interruptions. I loved having no interruptions, no one to show up for but myself, no external influences. I will always travel with my children. I will always travel with a partner, but I will always travel with myself. No, I don't have to show up in any role. I keep saying that over and over again because y'all, it is so liberating to not have to be something for someone sometimes. So like I said earlier, for me, I didn't have to alter or adjust in any way. When you travel alone, you don't. You don't have to consider the other person and no, you don't, right? So you intimately learn to reconnect with yourself like I did. And here's the thing too, it pushes you out of your comfort zone. It lets you know that you could do more than you thought you could do. It's like, okay, so I'll tell you real life. Speak the light. Okay. All right, Sharnice, your overflow light is filling out on others. Thank you so much. And that's the thing too. Like, can I say that, y'all? I was talking to my sons this morning and I said, you would not know. I said, so many people this weekend. And even when I was in Jamaica, this happened with the driver. She said, you have such a light and a joy that is coming from you. I'm supposed to tell you about Jamaica, but I just want to ask you about you. I feel your presence. I feel your peace. And that is what people were saying at the conference this weekend. If y'all knew that I was an angry little girl that would fuss and cuss you out, like my best friend used to say that I would get mad that the sun came out. Like I was angry. Like, oh, it is such a God-given thing to do that. But solo travel is what got me there. Spending time with myself is what got me there. And I'm honored to know that I could be a light, to somebody else and to tell you, like, I'm a little Black girl from Columbus with 3 children as a primary parent. If I can do it, you can too. Like, time out for excuses. I had 3 sons. I built the life that I wanted to live. It wasn't handed to me. I made a decision and I did the work, just like I decided I didn't want to be in pain anymore. So I faced myself and I did the work, right? Like we can get there. There was moments that I didn't think I would get to the other side. But that time alone and that solo time is what helped me get there. Right. And so when I was in Jamaica, I did not book back to the whole thing. I got sidetracked. Back to the whole thing about the doing what you didn't know that you could do, right? It has taught me patience and how to be calm. I used to have everything orchestrated. I took too long to book my shuttle to go from the airport to the resort. So when I landed in Jamaica, I didn't have no way to the airport. I mean, to the hotel. But what I knew and what I know from traveling back and forth and living on the island in St. Martin is I could do hard things and I could navigate uncertain circumstances. And I know somebody had a taxi and I was going to figure it out, or I was going to call the hotel, and it worked out beautifully. I walked up, I said, I'm looking for a taxi, got in a taxi and got to the hotel. No problem. No problem. They didn't book my travel going back to the airport. They said they couldn't accommodate. But guess what? I had made a connection with a driver who I called and said, "Would you be able to take me to the airport?" And it did. It works out. It works out. Okay. So it taught me that. It taught me that I can there's always a solution. It taught me to not fear getting lost and to be comfortable in the unknown. When I stayed there for a month, I had a friend that was like, my GPS ain't working. She was like, just get lost. Just get lost. And sometimes we have to get lost to find our true selves. Okay. So again, we don't solo travel because we're afraid, because we have responsibilities and feel like we don't have time, or a partner that might not understand it or is afraid for us, and that we're just afraid to be alone. And to that, I say, do not fear, do your research, find some safe destinations, and connect with somebody, make a friend that can help you navigate that place. Trust your gut and know that you have done hard things and you can navigate these uncertain circumstances as well, right? And know that it may not go as you plan, but it will be exactly what you need, right? For responsibilities, make the time, put it in your schedule, create a plan, and communicate with those that you need to communicate with so you can make sure that it takes place. Commit to, if nothing else, 45 minutes to an hour away overnight if you can't do a weekend. But just take the time for yourself and stop making excuses for it. You are as important as anybody else that you would make the time for. And if you cannot make that time, please seriously reevaluate yourself and your life, because you should be able to do at least 6 months out to say that I'm going to go here. And you set the boundary and maintain that. And for perceived loneliness, when you are really secure within yourself, that does not exist. And you have people in your life that are just a phone call, FaceTime away. When you get lonely, when you're traveling by yourself, FaceTime the people that you love, but make that time to spend time with yourself. Ask yourself, why am I afraid to be alone? Why am I afraid to sit with myself? Because of the very thing that you're seeking, that answer is within your stillness. Solo travel helps you get there. Okay. So I want to end with this notion. When I was at the conference this weekend, this woman said, I travel with myself, not by myself. I travel with myself and not by myself. I thought that was so profound, because that is what you do when you solo travel. You travel with yourself. Think about you as your companion, right? It's foreign to some of us, but just consider it. Traveling with self. Self, what do we want to do today? Self, what outfit? I had a whole thing for my birthday. What outfit do we want to wear? How are we feeling? Do we like this situation? Do we want to try that? Do we not? Travel with yourself and not by yourself. Okay. So I hope that hearing my story of how my solo travel trip, my first international trip out of the country, led me to move out of the country and to travel back and forth for 2.5 years, led me to go to other places by myself, led me to fall in love with myself, for parts of me that I didn't know exist, that were dormant, to come alive and awaken, for me to fall in love with who I really am, because I spent the time, I stopped running, and I learned her, and I liked her, and I fell in love with her. So I hope that it gives you the courage to do it too. And start small and build your way up, but just do it. Just do it one time. Just try it for yourself. So I want to leave you with this quote. Okay. I want to leave you with this quote. The best trip is the journey you take in finding yourself. You could keep going on vacation. You could keep going, and you could come back to you. You're going to come back to the same stuff. So I want to say that the best trip is the journey you take in finding yourself. And sometimes you have to get lost alone to find her. And sometimes you have to get lost alone to find her. All right. I want to thank you again for joining me on Make It Happen Monday. I hope you have an incredible week and book your solo trip. If you have any questions about how I did it or want to connect or say I'm scared, just let me know. DM me on Instagram at Monique Inc. and I'll be sure to comment and get you out of the country. Look at here, Mom. Hey, Brittany. Y'all have a great rest of your week. See you. Bye-bye.